Okay, what I'm going to show you today is how to set up the Moss server environment system with UpCloud servers and also installing a WordPress website using the Bedrock system as well. And I'm going to show you using UpCloud, but you're free to use Vultr, Google Cloud, or Amazon or anything else that you can use because the system I'm going to integrate it with is Moss. We're just doing it with Moss because it has a really good integration with the WordPress Bedrock system, which is a very modern way of developing WordPress sites like web applications, and it also provides an extra layer of security as well. So first of all, we're just going to go into the UpCloud dashboard. Of course, UpCloud is what I've used after doing lots of careful consideration about all the cloud software. It's very competitive out there, but given what they're providing with the Maxi OPS system, it's actually, I've benchmarked it and it's faster than the other ones I've compared it to, and the UI of the dashboard panel is very easy to use compared to some other competitors like Azure and Microsoft, Google and Amazon, especially Amazon. It's a great system, don't get me wrong, but it's really complicated to use. If you just want straight out server boxes and you want to configure them yourself, UpCloud is definitely one of the best ones I could recommend, along with Vultr or DigitalOcean as well. They're pretty good. So first of all, I've got some servers in here, but what we need to do is just go ahead and deploy a server first of all. Very easy to do. Pick a server, obviously, that's close to where you are. I'm currently based in Thailand, and so Singapore is the closest server to me and my customers, so that's the one I would actually pick. You would pick the one that's closest to you, of course. And you've got all these set plans as well, so we're just going to pick the $5 plan here per month and go down, and then we can change this. As soon as I change this, it's going to change the price, but I leave everything as default. We get to pick the Linux environment that we want. We could even go and get a Microsoft Windows one, but I'm going to pick Ubuntu from the selection here as well. We have some other options. Scrolling down, I'm just going to leave off the SSH keys. I'm going to actually touch on that later on in the presentation. And we go down here, and we could rename these ones to something that makes more sense. So what I'm just going to do is go Ubuntu Moss with Bedrock, and we'll just leave it the way it is here. So we got Ubuntu server control by Moss with Bedrock WP. Yeah. So nice description so we know what it is. The default one's okay, but I mean, it makes sense to give it something that you can actually, it's easy to understand. So that's now set up. It's going to go in there and actually make that server instance for us. And whilst we're waiting here, what we're going to do is just go to the Moss website. And the prerequisite of this, of course, you've actually signed up with Moss. They're great. Actually, the free tier plan has a lot of what you already need, and if you need to have some more integrations from other cloud providers, then they've got some very affordable based plans as well. But for me right now, the free tier plan is really great. I really like what they offer. So we're just going to go in there, and what you need to do is set up an account with Moss, of course, and you can go in and you can sign up. And then you give them your details, you send it through, and you get an email. You click on the email, and you can finish setting up your account. So I've already created an account, so I'm just going to log in here. And I think I've actually forgotten my URL, but my keygen has remembered it. So it's coolwebs.moss.sh. Now the great thing about this system admin, it's actually not on your server, so you don't have to spend the resources. Well, there we go. UpCloud has already generated the server box instance for me, so we'll get to that in a short while. But as I was saying, it's really good because I've just come across from using Vesta Control Panel, and that's a great system. Don't get me wrong, it's really fast, snippy and everything like that, easy to install on your server, but you have to manage it on your server, and it can take up significant resources unless you've configured it correctly, and that can go astray sometimes. But the great thing about Moss is it's not on your servers. It's managed by them, so you can keep it separate and away from your own websites and applications and things like that. So we're going to hit continue here, and it's logging into my system admin for Moss, and it loads everything up here. So quite easy to read interface here. I've got one already created called test hosting, so that's that. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to set up key generation, of course, because the best way of accessing through our remote and local is using SSH keys. So just going into open up a new instance of the terminal window. This is actually using iTerm2. It's a great drop-in replacement for the terminal window. It does the same thing, but it's a lot easier to customize. I think it's a lot more feature friendly. So just going to go in and make sure we're in the user account for myself. So I'll just go into the SSH folder, just make sure we're in here and list the contents. So we can see we've got here, by default, when you create a SSH keygen, you're going to get the ID RSA private key and the same one but a public key. Now that should do you fine for most things, but say you want to have access to many different kind of remote machines and you want to create a separate profile for that. That's what we're going to actually do, and I've previously done that with the two keys here, moss and moss.pub. So I'm just going to go in and use the SSH keygen command. I'm just going to create it here. So we'll enter the file which you want to save it. Now this is, see, it's telling me what the default is. I don't want to actually do this. I want to set up a separate one. So we're just going to call it the moss demo WP. And we'll make that happen now. And you should use a passphrase, but the purpose of this will just go past that and enter again. And so then that's now been created. If I go through and do the list, we should see moss demo WP, private and public keys as well. So now we've got those keys, that's great. What we need to do is add that public key when we connect up to the Moss system admin with our new server box. Now what we also want to do is, of course, I want to add up the key, because by default, if we try and log in with that, it's not going to work. We need to go in there and just go SSH add, and I got to go in there and go moss demo WP, and we've added that identity to our keygen. So now when we log in with that profile into our remote server, it will be recognized. If we don't do that, it's just going to say permission denied, because it's going to look up the ID RSA by default, and that's what it does. It doesn't even know to go looking for the one that we created. So we just put that away for the second. What we need to do is we need to go ahead and create a new workspace in Moss. So this is presuming that you haven't gone in and done anything. You've just set up the account. We just go into new, we set up a new workspace, and so I'm just going to call this one the same name, Moss Demo WP, and we create that. And so that shouldn't take too long to do. It's pretty instantaneous. So now we have the workplace, and within the workplace we can actually add a server, and then inside the server we add all the websites. So that's the kind of hierarchy we're talking about. Workspaces is on the top, and we've got servers just underneath it. You can have many servers from Vultr, from Amazon, from Microsoft, from Google, whatever you want. And then within that you have all your websites as well. And those websites could be just one website per VPS, or you could have several of them as well. It's up to you how you're going to configure that, basically. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and add that new server that we just created in our UpCloud system. And so we click on new server, and you can see here are the integrations they already provide. So these are really great. What happens is you don't even need to set these up prior to running Moss. You could get Moss to communicate straight up with these providers, and it spins up a new instance for you. It's all integrated via the API. But we're not going to do that in this tutorial. We're just going to go through and pick an existing server that we've already created. And of course, here it is, Asia, Bangkok. It's actually already detected where I am, probably using my geolocation. So I need to go in and check out the UpCloud servers here. And I think we have the latest one we created, which is called this one down here. Yep. So I'm just going to copy that IP here. And then we're going to go into here and paste it. And this is where we were talking about the SSH key before. This is really, really useful. So what I want to do is I want to add that key. I mean, this is one I've set up before. The more that you do this, you can actually have the public key already set in Moss, and then you could just keep a private key copy on your computer, and you can just keep the same key pair to generate for all your websites. But we're just going to keep it nice and clean, add that new key that we created. So we have this new menu here, which we've got. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back in the control panel and have a look at that. So that was called Moss Demo WP. We just want to copy that into the name. And then, so there we go. What we need to do is copy all this information that we have here. All right, and we put it into here, and then we hit create. So the key's now been created. That's great. We should be able to select that key from here, and then we also want to give it a server name. So I want to call it Moss Bedrock WP, something like that. And we have some advanced options that we can check out here. You can add swap memory, but I'm not sure if that actually works or not because I have clicked on it. There we go. I think it's not going to let us because we have less than 1 gigabyte because we picked a very small instance here. Now, I'm going to have to move my window a bit out of the way here because it's blocked by my screen. So we hit create. And now what we need to do is we need to log into our server and put this curl, copy and paste this curl command in there. And that's going to generate a user for us that we can actually paste into Moss and make that connection. So what I want to do is copy all that. Actually, before I need to copy that, anyway, whatever system you're using, you should have a root access to the server now. With UpCloud, it's really convenient. It actually sends me an email with the root user and the password. But you shouldn't leave it like that. I couldn't stress it enough. You should not leave a root access to your server with a password, no matter how complex it is. You should be using SSH, really. So what we're going to do in here is we're going to access it to put that script in via the root and the password, but after that we're going to disable it because you really shouldn't be leaving a door open like that for access into your server. So I'm just going to go through and copy the username and the root password and put it into the terminal, and then we'll continue on the journey. So we're just going to SSH in, and it's root, and this is the server's address, and then it first time it's asking me for the fingerprint. Yep, and that's going to ask for the password, of course. So this is probably the first and only time you should be doing this. So I'm just going to copy and paste it from the email. It's let us in, that's great. So what I want to do is copy this command here, and we'll just clear up the screen, and we paste it all in and let it run. Done. So tell Moss it must connect as user root. So we can do that. Yeah. So we hit finalize. It should work now. Wait for it. Oh, here we go. Bit of a gotcha. So I need to put root down here. So we hit finalize now, and that's going to create the connection between Moss and the UpCloud server that we've just created. And so we see a success message that it's been done, and that's all well and good. And so we don't need to go here and click create. There's a bit of a UI conflict here. It kind of seems like we need to click that, but it's not like that at all. So we click on the close button here, and we can see up here, which is really good, whenever you're doing anything in Moss, you have this little kind of notification coming up the top, and you can see a log of everything that's going on here. And right now it's creating the necessary connection between the Moss system admin and the server instance that we created in UpCloud. So that can take a bit of time depending on your system and what kind of size the box is or whatever. Usually takes a few minutes, something like that. So you can see here we've got the server coming up down here, but it's not fully complete. So we're just going to wait a little bit until everything's complete, and we're going to keep going on with the rest of the journey.